In the 1940s, the world was just beginning to come to terms with the aftermath of World War II. But amidst the chaos and destruction, one country would experience a financial collapse so extreme that it still holds the record for the worst case of hyperinflation in history. Even after nearly 100 years, that record hasn't been broken, not even by Zimbabwe, which has experienced two major hyperinflationary episodes in the last 2 decades. This is the story of the Hungarian pengő. The pengő was introduced on January 1st, 1927 as the official currency of Hungary. It replaced the Hungarian koruna, which had already been ravaged by post-World War I inflation. That koruna had itself replaced the Austro-Hungarian currency after the empire collapsed in 1918. Inflation was already a known problem. During the early 1920s, coins vanished from circulation entirely, and the koruna became so devalued that Hungary gave up on it altogether. When the pengő was introduced, it was exchanged at a rate of 12,500 koruna per pengő, and it was loosely pegged to gold, valued at 3,800 pengő per kilogram of fine gold. But it wasn't directly convertible. For a while, the pengő provided stability, but that didn't last. After World War II, things began to fall apart. Hungary had been an Axis power, and although it initially benefited from its alliance with Germany, the situation changed dramatically in 1944. As Hungary attempted to negotiate peace with the Allies, Germany invaded and occupied the country. Soon after, Hungary became a battlefield between the German and Soviet forces. The result was a devastation. Around 90% of Hungary's industrial capacity was destroyed. Rail lines and locomotives were wrecked, transport systems collapsed, and production of basic goods ground to a halt. With supply chains crippled, prices began to soar. In an attempt to stabilize the economy and restart production, the government began printing money. A lot of money. In July 1945, there were 25 billion pengő in circulation, and by July 1946, just 1 year later, there were 47 septillion pengő in circulation. That's a trillion, 24 zeros. To give you an idea of how absurd it got, before the war, $1 was worth 5 pengő, but by mid-1946, $1 was worth 460 septillion pengő. At its worst, prices were doubling every 15 hours. In just 4 days, the currency could lose 90% of its value. The situation was so extreme that the government stopped collecting taxes, because there was simply no point. A single day's delay would make the revenue worthless. To cope with the rapidly increasing prices, the government began introducing new denominations. First came the mil pengő, which equals 1 million pengő, then the bill pengő, which equals 1 trillion pengő. Eventually, they were printing 100 million bill pengő notes. That's 100 million trillion, or a quintillion pengő. They even printed a 1 billion bill pengő note, which is 1 sextillion pengő, or 21 zeros. The highest denomination banknote ever printed. And it was only worth about 12 US cents. All of this would have been funny if it hadn't been so tragic. Workers were paid in essentially worthless currency. By the time someone finished a day's work, their wages could buy less than they could that morning. Even a loaf of bread could cost millions. The pengő had become a punchline, a currency so inflated it lost all meaning. By this point, it was clear that no amount of printing or redenomination could save it. So, in August 1946, Hungary finally gave up. They scrapped the pengő and introduced a new currency, the forint, at an exchange rate of 400 octillion pengő to 1 forint. That's 400 billion. If you had all those pengő, congratulations, you now had 1 forint. Surprisingly, the forint stuck. Nearly 80 years later, Hungary still uses it today, and while the country is part of the European Union, it hasn't adopted the euro yet. It took them a few tries, but eventually they got there. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more.